Welcome everybody to another marketing roundtable. It's fantastic to see you here. Great to see so many faces that are familiar in there, and also some new faces along in the live session. We're going to be deep diving into niching today, and then we're going to be hitting a Q&A around it. And once we talk about niching, we're also going to be talking about the flagship product. Hello to everybody that's just joined us. We're going to get started. So let me just share my screen and just give you the agenda for today. So where are we? We're over here and we'll whip up to here. Right. So welcome along. So part one, we're going to talk about my kind of stubborn realization that I was wrong on niches. And then part two was selling to your niche, how to create one product that is the most awesome solution for your niche's pain. So once we know who we're selling to, then we need to think about what we're going to sell to them. And I think that's vitally important, because it's actually really empowering to start to think about, well, actually my product that I've been selling for a while to a wider audience, if I go deep down this niche, then the depths of that knowledge that I have, the depths of how I can tailor that to a specific type of person is far better than trying to walk through a narrow space with my arms that wide, i.e. to try and sell everything to everyone, right? And that's the piece that we're really going to look at. So it's not just going, oh, you need a niche. It's like, this is why you need a niche, because you can create this awesome product. And that's what we're going to talk about in part two. Cool. So the first kind of 30 minutes is going to be around that. And then do stick around for the live Q&A, because that's where we want to really understand you guys and your niche and go through that with you today. Cool. If anybody hasn't seen already, we have this $1 million thesis. It's our 9-step process on how I scaled 2 businesses to $1 million in revenue in the past, and how we're scaling this current business. Step 1 and step 2, this is about. So step 1 in this thesis, this is the thesis here. So step 1 is solve a pain and do it well within a solution that scales. That's the product, right? So you need to know who you solve the pain for, and then for you, once you know that, then it creates a solution that's that scales. And then once you know your niche, then it's easy to do step 2, which is find and hang out with the people that you solve a pain for, your audience. So this is step 1 and step 2 in this thesis. So this is all publicly available on my website. Flora, if you can just remember to put this below any replays or YouTube that we put that link in. And for our live audiences, in the chat for you now, click on that link and maybe save it for later if you haven't read the thesis already. And step 1 and step 2 is what today is all about, or partly about, right? We get to expand on it today. Okay, so finding a niche, and my stubborn realization I was wrong on niches. So when I started my business, Yomp, my first marketing agency, I started as a one-man band, right? I just came, sort of, actually, to be honest with you, many people don't know that my first business failed. I came out of university and had a sketchbook that I had created through a load of GIFs and stuff. And normally, actually, I don't go deep on this, but I'll just give you a quick highlight of this. And I went with my graduate loan over to India, went to Delhi, went around all the different shows there in Delhi. And then I took a flight and I went to China, where we went to Shenzhen and Guangzhou, went up to the Dragon River. Amazing experience as 23-year-olds with like eyes like wide open going, wow, China and India are just mental. And then, of course, if you ever want to know how to negotiate, go and try and negotiate in a trade show in Delhi. They will literally, they will get a good deal out of you, especially me at 23 years old, green, coming off the plane going, oh, this will be fine, I'm sure. Crikey. So I overpaid on a lot of stuff. But the point being is that my first business was that. It was a product design business, an importation business. And that was just before the big 2008 crash. And my business basically crashed with it. But what I did at that point was that I had all these customers, these independent retailers that were really struggling because the high streets were dead. And I then started to try and help them with their marketing, partly because I could see opportunity for them. And the other part was because I just needed to do something to be able to actually pay my rent. And so I started to create designs for them, graphic designs, website designs for them. I was designy and, kind of techie, and I'm not really a techie, but I can kind of do some bits, right? And so that point of view was like, oh, I've got to get as many projects in as possible from as many people as possible. And I just sold everything. So my first foray into marketing was basically stuff because I was literally having to pay rent. So I just sold anything, right? Email marketing campaigns, graphic designs. I did your business card designs. I went out and then brokered the printing for the business cards. And so I was everything to God knows anyone that had a £5 note in their pocket, right? And then what started to happen is that the people that were coming back started to say, oh, I really like what you did on this website. Can I have a website? But actually, I'd like to have this type of website. And then another person would say, well, I like that email campaign, but I want this type of email campaign. And I just created complexity and complexity and complexity. And it meant that actually, when you think about the week, I don't know if any of this would resonate to you. If you were selling multiple things, I would start the week like this and go, oh, I've got my rainbow pen mount, by the way. Look at this. What a great pen that is. Everybody needs a rainbow pen in their life, right? Okay, so I'd start the week like this, and I would be going in this direction. I'd be selling this thing. I'd be selling websites here. I'd be selling email marketing here. I'd be selling this to here. And then, of course, because I was selling websites to independent shops, this one had to be an e-commerce one. But then I'd have their friend, the plumber, that wanted a website, and he would just want a normal website. And then this one would want to have something, but it was like a independent financial advisor. So now I'm having to think about, well, what's the IFA accreditations and important stuff you've got to put on websites legally to be able to do this. And then I've got these things. So I'm not just doing one website, I'm doing multiple varieties of websites with multiple different things that are being required. And I'm trying to remember multiple different pieces of expertise, from trying to put like a credit card payment to make payments on an e-commerce website, all the way through to, as I say, keeping the legality on our IFA website, or even working with a solicitor over here, which was just an absolute pain in the ass. And by the way, the only person that didn't pay me was the blooming solicitor. Bastards. Sorry, anyway, excuse my French. So can you see how you start the week going, oh my God, and then you got to sell that thing, you got to deliver that thing, and blah, right? So what meant is I underpriced all this stuff, and I was just what was called a busy fool. Now, along came one of these great people, right? And this person was Colin. And Colin was my kind of savior at that point. Here's Colin here, the silver fox. We love Colin, right? And he came along, and I was working with him, and he said, I really like what you guys do. You're kind of, got some great ideas. He ran an IT business, 50 people, right? Big B2B company, 50 people, owner operated, proper company. He said, but what I really need is I need something that does daily content, daily social media. I need a blog each week. I need a video each week. I kind of would like an email to go out to tell my customers about that blog and email. I also want my website to get more leads. And I was like, all right, okay, well, we can try and do something around that. And together we crafted this lead generation campaign for Colin. Now, the beauty of that was suddenly we remembered what the result Colin wanted, right? And so the result Colin wanted was that he wanted more leads. The type of business he was a B2B owner operated, 50 plus staff in the tech sector, right? And so that became a common problem that we saw within other businesses that looked like Colin's. And what Colin had helped us to create for him was the perfect lead generation product that was just churning out leads, and it worked. And so suddenly we had this great package that was a lead generation package. Now, when we started to speak to other people that were like Colin, we could then say, well, look, here's the results that we're getting from Colin. Colin only operates in this area, or Colin isn't quite a competitor of yours. So we think that we'll be able to do the same thing and work for you to be able to do this lead generation campaign. And in fact, we've called it the IT lead gen campaign, right? And so now I'm speaking to clients and showing them results and showing them an actual tailored specifically campaign to that person. And that was like, wow. And so we suddenly then went, right, I need to then move out all these other projects, remove these projects, and just go double down on this campaign. We changed ourselves to be known as being a lead generation agency, as opposed to being just a full service marketing agency. And so therefore people came to us for leads. I am still known very much around lead generation. My previous businesses after this one, I called the Lead Gen Group. We're very much around lead generation for bigger business, for IT businesses. And that meant that our average order size went from £1,000 to £3,000 a month. And we only had to work with a few clients to make a big revenue. That change helped me to recruit up to 28 staff that we had for our business by the time that we sold it, and also took us over $1 million in revenue. And we only then sold one product, the lead generation product for the lead generation agency. It meant that we just sold the one solution. Why? Because people don't want lots of solutions. They want one solution, the solution that gets them results. And that's what that journey took us to. Now, that aha moment for me, and obviously then the success of being able to sell on that business and move to the next one, meant that when I realized that, I was like, this is great. If you have a lead product and you get great at it, then the business can be kind of named after, and it became the mantra for how I took businesses forward. So as I span out of that business and then into another opportunity, this chap here, Alex, came to see me. Unfortunately, he was someone that I knew from doing his website ages before I actually niched, and his business was going under, and he had just overgrown. He was like buying watches on the company and doing stupid stuff. He was robbing Peter to pay Paul with his suppliers, and he just didn't run that business well enough. Now, what we did is we realized that actually that business, which is a boiler servicing business, was trying to sell too many things to too many people. It was trying to do commercial contracts. It was trying to do domestic stuff. It was trying to get involved with building work. And I was like, well, the one thing that we know that we do really well is service boilers. Because if you service a boiler, then 1 out of 10 is going to have a problem, and then you're going to have to replace the boiler. So not only are you getting 100 quid every time you service a boiler, but 1 in 10 times you service one, there will be that boiler will need to be replaced. So that's like a 2.5, 3 grand replacement, right? And so we just completely cut out everything when we took over this company. I basically bought the company for £1 out the receivers, right? Took it over. It only had 3 vans at that point, and then started to rename it Boiler Servicing 24/7. So we named it after the thing that we led with, right? Really easy clues in the title, Boiler Servicing 24/7. We then smashed all our ads into just selling one thing, boiler servicing. And then because of that, we got the upsell to the actual replacement boilers. And that's where we went from 3 vans to 7 vans on the road, and we were able to scale. And we targeted what we called Hyacinth's Bouquet. Do you remember, have you ever seen, is it Keeping Up Appearances? Because we're in Surrey, right? So Surrey is like classic, like plummy, like trying to be posh, but not quite posh type of world. And she's like, hi, is it the lady of the house speaking? And that used to be the person we would have up on the wall as being our target audience. So we knew who we wanted to target, which is the Hyacinth's Bouquets in Surrey, because they would not quibble about price. They liked good service, and they just wanted someone to come in and get it sold, get it done. So they were our perfect target audience. We targeted them with the one product, which was boiler servicing, and we really went after it, and we scaled that business again to $1 million in revenue, 7 vans on the road with 7 engineers. And again, I sold that, right? So that's how you can work this. Okay. Now, then I started this business here, and I'm going to get some more practical stuff for you. I'm going to give you a worksheet after this slide. And this was the Lead Gen Summit. So we did these summits. There's a few people here who've been to it. I think, Tony, you've been to one of these. And Tony, you may even be in this picture, you know. So you have to try and spot yourself. So this is what I did. I did mass marketing for everybody in the Surrey, Hampshire area. I used to come along to my Lead Gen Summits to learn about lead generation. This is obviously pre-COVID. But I suddenly realized that I put on this massive event, and actually only like 4 or 5 people would be target audience for me. So now I'd created an animal for myself. And this was my realization that although I'm trying to help everybody in the business space be able to grow their business, I'd done what I had done with the marketing campaign right at the start again. I basically try to bring everybody into a big event and putting all this effort in, but actually there's only a few people I want to target. And so that's when I realized that actually you've got to be really, really focused when you're coaching and putting on things like Zoom events to make sure you've got the right type of businesses in there. And the language you use is things like expert businesses is how we help people, business service sector, expert businesses, those type of businesses is now how we help. And we kind of articulate through that through our marketing. So you need to think about actually the riches are in the niches, right? And the better and deeper you can go, because we've developed a product that is just a one product for that niche. We're going to go into that in a second. you really, really, really want to be able to go niche on it. Okay. So this is the Google sheet that I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to stick it in the chat now. It's just a nice sheet. So when you go onto this sheet, it's going into the chat now. You might want to save it for later. Cool, cool, cool. There we go. Tony says, yes, he was over the door as I was the MC. Of course you were. Where are you? Let's have a look, Tony. Where are you? Are you in there? That's hilarious. Okay, cool. I think you got back turn there. Cool, I love it. Okay, good stuff. Good to see you, Tony, by the way. Okay, so here you go. So you got $1 Million Sprint here. This is our audience worksheet. And you see here, you want to make a copy and make your own copy of this. And then on this tab here at the bottom, you've got your audience piece. So this is the bit that we ask and we say to people you should fill in, and this will start to give you things like the target audience personas, the background, demographics, positions that they're in. These are all great ways of really approaching your target audience and answering these questions on this side here, saying what your answer is and the subsequent action you're going to take from it. So you start to put those in will really, really help you, right? So if you, so purchasing barrier, they might not have enough time. That's one of the purchasing barriers. Okay, create an FAQ video that says, people tend to say that they don't have enough time to do my product. This is how I help and approach that, right? And so you can start to say, well, that's who, this is what they say, and this is the type of thing that I'm going to take action from it. A good example of that, by the way, when someone starts to say, well, what's the purchasing barriers, is to create things like videos. So for example, if someone says to us, we haven't got enough time, then we say, well, look, to work with us, you only need to create your $1 Million Hour. And so we have this thing called here, MDS free here. And here's links to all the kind of content that we've got that helps and educates our clients, but also it might also help them to overcome thought process about not having enough time, right? And so here's a video, for example, that says about your perfect $1 Million Hour. And it's a training to help people to have that hour a day that works on their business, not in their business. Just out of interest, if everyone wants to see that, by the way, I'll just chuck that into the chat as well. Flora, could you just pick up all of these things in the chat and just make sure they're below the replays as well? So you can see that in the description of these videos if you're watching this on the replay. But for the live audience in here, you can click on that now. You can save that for later and have a read of that. And you'll see that this is just a nice little, 6-minute video that you can send to clients. And that just answers the, hey, what about, the overcome the objective of time, right? Cool. Okay, so let's come back to this. You want to really get to know that client and really understand it, because then once you have that persona and you can call that person, a Colin or a hyacinth bouquet. It doesn't have to be a real person. Obviously, hyacinth bouquet is a characterization of a type of person. Then you can start build marketing campaigns and think about that person, right? So that's the actions for filling that. And I'd love you guys to fill that in. And feel free, by the way, to share that in the free Facebook group that we have in the Sprint. It'd be great to see a few of you talk about your personas and your audience personas in there, right? The next step is to think about, well, actually, now you know that, then we want to think about, well, how do we create one product that is the most awesome solution for your niche's pain? Now, this is the type of work we do with our $1 Million Sprint clients all the time. And really, it comes down to this, right? So if we think about yourselves, and you may be in this position that you are doing all of this stuff and you're being pulled from pillar to post, and suddenly you realize that many of your products aren't great for clients, and actually many of your clients aren't really your best type of clients. They're not paying you the right amount of money. They don't value you, whatever it might be. Sorry, let me just move. Can I move? There we go. I can move it. Right. So what tends to happen, what the marketing advice out there, the classic kind of guru advice, and I've said this, I think on a previous conversation, is that everybody kind of tells you need this value ladder, right? So you need to go start up here. You need to do these loads of clients, right? So you start with free, and then you sell them like a 49 quid thing. You sell them then a 197 thing. Then you sell them a 500 thing. And then you got your 10K thing at the top. Everybody online, all the gurus talk about this. You got to do this lovely, perfect hop. And then ultimately, after time, they come and have enough know, like, and trust to be able to buy a 10 grand thing, right? That is absolute poppycock. Because they are gurus. And what they've done is that they sold the 10K thing first, and then got so busy because they're gurus and are really good at being able to build audience that they had to create downsells to be able to downsell to the audience that can't afford the 10K, but still wants to work with them, and they can't actually allow themselves to not go and make money off people that can't quite do the 10K thing. Now, what happens is then people try and go down here, and then they might do some of this, and then they might bounce up. But a lot of people, when you're a small business without audience, what you'll do is you'll have your value ladder. You'll look at the gurus and go, oh, I need to have that because, Brendan Bouchard has that, or, Gary Vaynerchuk has that. And you go, okay, well, look, fine. You go do your free thing. And then what someone does, they buy their 49 quid thing. They go, okay, it's not really solving the pain that I wanted. All right, okay, fine. I'll try your 197 thing. I'll go, oh, and I'll go, oh, no, okay. And then I just go and buy this person's 10 grand thing, right? Because you're like, you had your chance, didn't quite get the pain, had it again, didn't quite work. And you're now having to deliver 1, 2, 3, 4 different things to 4 different people. And now you've just created your own stretch out this way with creating more complexity than you need. Forget this, do F2F. Now that doesn't count as face-to-face. What that means is free to flagship. Okay, and the flagship is vital when you're a small business, you're starting out in this expert space, because that is the thing, right? Blow their minds with free, over deliver on the free side, right? That's step 4 in our process, by the way. Massively over deliver for free for people, give them loads and loads and loads of tips. They will love you for it. Then you get one opportunity to sell to those people. Sell them not lots of different solutions, sell them the solution to the result that they want. So think about that. Think about that pain thing. So we're going free to flagship. We'll keep that just up there, right? Think about that pain that Colin had. He wanted leads, right? The result that he wants was leads. That was the thing that he wanted. He didn't care how he got there. He needed leads. He wanted to buy leads from my company. That's what he wanted, right? What do people want to buy from $1 Million Sprint at the moment? They want to buy a $1 million business, right? They want to be able to buy a scaled business that turns over in pounds about £61,000 a month. That's the result that people want. Now, people know, Colin knew that it was going to take a while to get decent leads and to have a decent volume of them. People who work with me know it's going to take a while to get to $1 million in revenue, but people understand there's a journey, right? So this is how you get your lovely wiggly line from where they are now to how you get the result for people. And it's not lots of different journeys and do little bits and half of the journey and the rest of it. It's the result that you want is this, and you are here now, and therefore it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, in this case, 5-step process to be able to get from where you are now to the result. And so as you start to unpeel this journey, you start thinking, well, actually, what do they need to do first? And you start planning that for the client. And then what do we need to do this? Or if you're doing a done for you service, what do we need to do to help them to get to this checkpoint? Or what do we need to do to help them to get there? So from Colin's perspective, we're like, well, we need to do conversion optimization on your website. We then need to do some SEO. We then need to film some videos. We then need to go do some email campaigns. We then need to do some pay-per-click. And then bam, you start getting results, right? That was our 5-step process. You can then pull out that process into a nice methodology diagram. And now you've got your methodology, you've got your client journey, and you've got the result, right? People will buy based upon that journey, your product, because they can see that you've got a methodology to get from where they are now. And the reason why it's so important to think about now is that you can say to them, I know that you're here. Because I work with people like you, I've got experience. I understand that you've got this type of pain, you're this type of company. We've worked with those type of companies now. We understand that you have that pain. We get it. We completely understand. And we know that for a company like yours, you should be expecting to get this type of result. And we know, because we've done it before, or I've done it personally myself, because that's sometimes good to talk about your own journey, that it's just a 5-step process with little checkpoints, little stepping stones in between to get you from where you are now to where the result you want to be. And therefore, that is the only thing that you do. It's not multiple solutions. It's just one journey, one result. And therefore, you wrap that up. And that, my friends, becomes the flagship product. Okay. Now, many of these roundtables, I talk about how to market your business and therefore get people to strategy sessions and then for get people to actually buy your, to pitch your flagship. And the point is of when you market your business, the beautiful thing about having this journey is you've now got 5 different categories that you can start making thought leadership pieces in, or you can run events like this or whatever it is around those 5 different subjects and just light touch on these subjects to let people know that this is the type of journey and this is what you want to be known for. And then when people start to consume that content and see and understand that you're the expert in these 5 steps and you're also the expert in this result, then people will come and book into some sort of sales pitch with you. And therefore you will then be able to present the fuller remarkable solution, which is your flagship product. And hence why people will buy this product, because they're not actually buying that product, they are buying the result. And this is the best way for them to get the result. And hence why, that's why you should have one niche with one flagship product. And that, my friends, is what will set you free. Love it. So, hi, by the way, for new people that were joining us as I was ranting. Good to see you. Just before I jump in and grab the first question from you, I love helping further with people to be able to find out what their niche is and what their flagship is and actually how that works. And I run these sessions, these strategy sessions, just once a week for a small boutique number of you, normally about 4 to 5 people max. And I run those sessions so I can find your niches, and I can also look at the campaign that you need to create to get people to buy your stuff. So if you have not signed up for a strategy session yet, can I just quickly share that in the group? So if you jump onto our website here, and at the top, you'll see that there is this free strategy session link here. And on this link, I'm just going to put it into the chat. Also, I've put this in chat. There's this orange button here, but above these success stories, there's an orange button here. And on this button here, it takes you to my Calendly. So you can see here, I'm going to chuck this into chat. There's one session a week. And if you just jump onto that, you can see here on Wednesday, 12:30, that's available today. So we can see you today at 12:30. We can start to unpick some of your niche. So I'd really recommend anybody on this call to jump on that. If you can't make today's session, there's one next week and the week after. Okay. So they are there for me to further help. There's no obligation. I will show you a bit more about the $1 Million Sprint at the end if it's appropriate, but it's all about you and actually spending a bit more time in detail about finding your niche, what the right campaign is for you, and actually understanding how you can scale to $1 million in revenue. And yes, everybody on this call can scale to $1 million in revenue. Not wanting to be presumptuous, some of you may already be there, but everybody can do. Okay, right, into the room. Let's take some questions, gang, or thoughts or feedback, or it's a round table, remember, so feel free to also share your experience of niching as well. Let's enrich the conversation. So into the room, feel free to unmute and let us know your thoughts. Elaine, yes.
Good morning, Richard.
Good morning.
Richard, I'm a one-man band, and my background is that I'm a neurosurgical intensive care sister, now retired, and I became a hypnotherapist. So I have so many strings to my bow. It would make an orchestra if only somebody could conduct it. Yeah. My focus, my niche, has been on childhood disrupted. It's not just normal hypnotherapy, it's people who have had childhood trauma and how it is affecting their lives as an adult. And this can be anything from sexual orientation, sexual problems in relationships. It can be autoimmune disease, and there's a whole cycle of problems that adults can have because of childhood trauma. Now, if you look at it now, right now in this day and age, there is so much trauma to deal with that it seems to be a perfect niche. Now, because of my advancing age, I decided that I wasn't going to be 70 because that was too much to deal with. So I became young and forever young and ageless. My surname is Young. And I decided that perhaps treating trauma wasn't a good thing during lockdown, because so many people were having trauma of their own, of having problems with death and dying, and it was very heavy. So I looked and thought, I need to change my niche. And because I found out that a lot of the diseases, the problems that I have, were caused because I didn't have menopause treated properly. I thought, right, let me train, let me have a look, let me see what I can do about people going through menopause and how I can help them. So I trained. I did some courses, and I did fatnosis, so that it was hypnosis for fat people. Now I'm in a wonderland, or not in a wonderland, I'm in a wilderness. I'm not sure what I should be focusing on. I'm sure there's a lot more money in trauma, because you can take it over time, and you can have a good process over 6-8 months, something like that. Whereas menopause seems to be, oh well, it's one program that fits all. It isn't, because you've got the anxiety, you've got all the side effects from having low hormone
I think in terms of me being able to tell you which one's the best, I won't be able to tell you which one's the best. The market tells you which one's the best. So if anybody is stuck between two niches, I think that's where you're saying, Elaine, is you're kind of thinking, well, which one do I go to? I was kind of that, and now I'm kind of that. I always say that this is the piece that where you need to go deep, not wide. And so, for example, the trauma piece should be a case of, instead of changing niche at that point, you should have doubled down on it and gone even further into that. And it should, it still is a good time to be talking about trauma sides. If you just didn't like that because you personally felt it was too heavy and it was affecting you, then you should just realize that you've already moved away from that niche, and so therefore double down on the menopause one. Both will work. Both will get clients. Both are perfectly good and very nicely targeted niches. You've now got to just think about, well, actually, which one do I like? And then a piece of advice that Lord Sugar gave to me was, you've got to smell what sells. And so you've got to see actually which one is actually selling and which one the market sees you as. So do I see Elaine as being the person that deals with menopause, or do I see Elaine as the person that deals with childhood trauma? Is my website completely childhood trauma focused, and I've just had a little flutter with the menopause, and really I should go back to all this work that I built up over years, and I just had a wobble, a niche wobble. And so that's the thing. I think a lot of people, you got to remember that people get niche claustrophobia. This is a genuine thing. I don't think it's a medical term, but it's a niche claustrophobia, right? It's a marketing phrase. And so what that means is but there's so much opportunity around here, and I feel like I'm being pigeonholed, and actually, if you think about how do you project a massive thing like a cannonball, you've got to put it into somewhere very small and dark. You've got to light the fuse and poof, it goes, right? And a niche is like a cannon. You essentially have to put all of your content into something very dark and tight and very small and a little bit uncomfortable, then light the touch paper and you go off to the races. It happened to me 3 times now. And that's because it's every single business that's been successful of mine is because we focused on a niche. So Elaine, I think that's a long-winded way of answering your question. You got to think about, there's 3 things to think about. 1, personally, which one's your favorite? 2, which one does the market see you as being, and then 3, smell what sells. So if it's selling, the people see you as being it and you like it, that's that kind of perfect Venn diagram center, and that's the place for you to be. Cool. Hopefully that's some great questions. And if all else fails, put two different things in, spin a bottle and see which one it points at. Work it that way and then go double down. Cool. James has got his hand up, so I'm gonna move to James. Thank you, Elaine, for the question. I really appreciate it. James, over to you.
Yeah, just coming back to it's not so much a question, more an observation that I think might be useful. But what you were saying about the Venn diagram there, Richard. So in my business, I'm a copywriter, as you know. I've found that there are three aspects to finding your niche. Yeah. So there's sector, there's media, and there's attitude. Now, so for example, for me, for sector, I tend to work with, you know, B2B or also people who sell to LPs, like hearing aids and stuff like that. For media, I like writing emails and video scripts more than I like writing I don't know, blog posts, for example. And attitude is probably the ultimate decider. So a lot of the people I've worked with have been followers of, well, people like yourself, I suppose, but sort of people like Tony Robbins and Dan Kennedy and people like this. And
it's a great category you put me in with that, by the way.
Well, of course,
that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If I don't blow smoke at you, then who will?
I will. Yeah.
So what I've found is that it's that Venn diagram, and it's about finding the sweet spot there of who ticks all three boxes. And where I've had frustrations in the past, it's been, if I looked at it retrospectively and thought that's because they only sort of fall into the one box, it's the wrong kind of media, or their attitude was wrong, or something like that. So I don't know, I found that to be a very useful checklist, and perhaps that would be useful to the group.
Yeah, fantastic. I love the idea of media actually working around, but really kind of what do you want to do? And how does that actually fit within the niche? Does the niche want to buy the thing that you want to do? Does it make you happy doing that? And do you like hanging out with those people? I know when I was kind of thinking about, well, actually, who do I want to really double down my marketing and business growth advice to? Well, actually, I love the expert industry. I've been kind of sat in it for so long. I get it, and I love the people within it. It's easy to hang out with those type of people. We are, it's good. So therefore, it's a cool part of it. I love the John talks about chasing multiple rabbits. There's a great, I think it's a Russian proverb that says, if you try to catch two rabbits, you get none. And so that's a great quote for there. Just before I take the next question or input, guys, because at 1:45 officially we've finished, but I'm going to hang around for a little bit longer. But just remember, and thank you to the guys that have booked in this already. And actually, I think that we're just running out the last couple of spaces on these sessions. So do jump in. So if you want to know a bit more about your personal niche and where you should be targeting and the type of campaigns you do, and if you're watching this on the replay, there'll be a link below as well. You can jump onto it. This is very much a campaign, a session for you to understand more about your marketing. So jump onto that. And thank you, by the way, because I can see there's a couple of bookings already. Right, cool. So I'm sticking around for another 5-10 minutes. So let's carry on asking questions. So who's got some other thoughts about niching, or in terms of the product, therefore, that you create? Part 2 of what we talked about, the type of product you create. Baju, yes.
Hi, Richard. Yeah, Baju. I just put it in the little chat. I thought you might be finishing off, but the word niche comes from the Latin that means nest. So question to ask yourself is, when you're not in the room, what's the nest in someone's mind that you want to occupy? So when we think about Richard, we think the $1 million business or whatever, and then everything comes around that. So everything that he does is related to, it all points back to the $1 million. So we create that niche. So when was it Elaine was speaking earlier, like James is a copywriter. So I'm assuming, James, that you want someone to occupy the nest of copywriter when they think of you. So Elaine, like Richard said, you can think about trauma. You fall into this category of, well, counselor, therapist, and all the rest of it. So it's like, when they think of Elaine, what do you want them to think? And then answer that question. And then you say to yourself, like, what do I need to create that delivers that thing? Or when I think of Elaine, I think of someone who can help me deal with a childhood trauma. Oh, okay, it's a childhood, or to deal with the menopause. And you mentioned menopause. There's a big thing going about menopause at the moment. But people also know that it's not just about, oh, it's a sort of a small thing, it's a major thing. So it's like, what's your niche within the menopause dialogue that you want to be the expert in? It's that kind of thing, and that sort of trails around to everybody else. So,
yeah.
For example, for me, I've got this name around sort of being this accountability sniper coach, whereby I get to the hone of the problem. So I occupy that nest in people, but that encompasses everything else I do around entrepreneurship and performance. So I just hope that helps, Richard.
Fantastic. And yeah, definitely does. And thank you for your input. What I loved about that, by the way, guys, is that it's that piece about how do you help? That's the nest, if you think, is that person helps me to do X. So we all have these different nests, right? So I know that Graham is my electrician and Andy's my plumber and Paul is my builder. And you know, they kind of sit in those nests. That is it. That if the phone goes off because I've got the boiler's broken, I phone them. We probably all have these domestic supply people that we go, oh, that's my electrician, right? We almost reference them as my. Now, as expert businesses, coaches, agencies, marketing, etc., that's a very interesting space to be. So you need to have someone think of you as your coach, but actually you want to be a bit more than that. You can say, well, actually, that person is my lead generation coach or my accountability coach, if you're Beiju, or if you are me, this is my coach that helps me scale to $1 million in revenue. The result that you get is why you're buying that coaching or that expertise. Or if you're an agency, where you buy those leads from there, they're my marketing agency, they're my lead generation agency. That's, you know, how I said that we became a lead generation agency. Bam. They are my boiler servicing guys because we were the servicing boilers, right? So that's the nest. You want to be known as those persons. So Elaine, you can't be someone's well, I'd struggle if you could be my childhood trauma person and my menopause person at the same time. That's a lot going on there, I guess. Maybe those two things could be interlinked, but I genuinely think you need to occupy just the one nest and work on that. Cool, I love it. Okay, well, look, happy to take some further another question or another piece of feedback. I love that you can only ride two horses. You can't ride two horses, you only have one ass. I heard something really profound on the same thing, which is if you try and use two loos, it gets messy. So Tony, I'm sorry. Over to you, Tony. Save me.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that, you know, niching is really important. I come across a lot of people that on my LinkedIn profile, so I look at lots of LinkedIn profiles, you know, I do it for a living, and they come across as a generalist. And no one wants a generalist. They're looking for outcomes, so they want to deal with a specialist. So many people they fall into that trap of, oh, if I'm a bit of a generalist, I can cover this, I can cover that. You still might be niching the market you're going for, but you're still coming across as someone who does a bit of this and a bit of that. Actually, no, you know, really become a specialist in a certain area. You know, like you say, we have one product you're aiming for. Yeah, I'm sure that we've all got more than one thing we can do, but you need to not confuse the market. You need to set yourself up as being the go-to. Going back before many of you were probably born, was a thing on the phones in the old days called an app dial, which was a button you pushed and you could program it in. And my goal as a salesperson in those days was to become someone who was on that app dial. So if they thought about what I sold, they pushed that button. And that's kind of still what I want now.
Is that one of those phones that used to sit on tables?
Yeah, I'm old. I'm that old, Richard. You know, I am that old.
So it is true, and thank you, Tony. So I think that the point that I really want to say is that yes, so many people that I work with, by the way, these are the kind of the banana skins, and I'll finish with this, right? The banana skins to watch out for here is to go, right, I'm going to go for my niche. Fine, I've heard what Richard's got to say and all these lovely other pieces of input. Fine, we're going to go for niche. But then you don't then do the second part, which is the product that's related to that niche. So once you know your niche, you want to know the result that they want to buy from you, and you want to draw that journey for them, and therefore create the one solution for the one result that your audience wants. And those two things together would be enough to take you to $1 million in revenue. You just don't need to do any more than sell one thing to go to $1 million in revenue to one audience. genuinely, there's enough people out there in that audience sector to buy your product. And if it is the one solution, then it's a high ticket solution, and therefore you're away. Right. Thanks, guys. That was great. And I really appreciate all the feedback and content. I'd love to see you in a strategy session. So please do book in. Thank you for people that have done. And if not, or if you already have and you're considering working with us, then feel free to see you next Wednesday at 9 o'clock at the Marketing Roundtable this session. Great to see you, and thanks again. Cheers, gang. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye now. Bye-bye.